In this video, we're starting with a question that is as fundamental as it is unsettling. Why do humans create religion? Think about it. Why is it that in every society and every culture, stretching back almost as far as human history itself, a belief system inevitably emerges? The names change, the narratives shift, the gods evolve, but that underlying need remains constant. This is the exact puzzle David Hume sets out to solve in his work, Dialogues Concerning Natural Religion. But here's the twist. Hume doesn't dive into the classic, "Does God exist?" debate that we've all heard 1,000 times. He takes a step back. He looks at the mechanics of the human mind and asks, why do we need this? Under what conditions does a human being start clinging to the sacred, the divine, or the supernatural? The brilliance of this work lies in how Hume treats religion. He doesn't view it as a reality handed down from the heavens. Instead, he sees it as a byproduct of our own psyche, our fears, our inability to cope with uncertainty, and those moments when we lose our sense of control. This isn't a debate about whether religion is true or false. It's an exploration of how the human mind tries to manufacture meaning when it's pushed to its limits. Hume knew exactly how dangerous this line of thinking was in his time. That's why he doesn't shout. He doesn't attack. He doesn't pick a fight. Instead, he calmly asks questions, the kind of questions that refuse to leave your mind once they've been planted. And honestly, that's why this book feels so modern today. Hume isn't just talking about religion. He's describing our reflexes in the face of the unknown. Whether it's a natural disaster, a terminal illness, or the shadow of death, he shows us how the mind weaves stories to explain what it cannot control, and how those stories eventually become sacred. He looks at the question of, why do we believe, from a place that is raw, stripped down, and brutally honest. My goal here isn't to give you an academic lecture. I want to talk about Hume's observations and where we see them playing out in our world today. Because if you look closely, even centuries later, our reactions to uncertainty haven't changed. It's not just about gods anymore. Today, ideologies, spiritual trends, self-help narratives, and even conspiracy theories drink from that same well. So in this video, we aren't just reading a philosophy book. We are using Hume as a guide to understand the architecture of the human mind. This idea of fear and uncertainty that Hume describes might feel like it belongs only to primitive societies. But if we pause and look at our lives today, we encounter something eerily familiar. Our minds may look more evolved, but our fundamental reaction to the unknown hasn't changed a bit. Only the triggers have shifted. We might not tremble at the sound of thunder anymore, but we are terrified of losing our jobs, failing in health, or being unable to control our future. The stage is different, but the emotion is exactly the same. This is where Hume's real strength lies. He doesn't treat religion as a product of a specific era. He sees it as a recurring reflex of the human mind. When we face a situation we can't control, our minds immediately crave a reason. The question, why did this happen, isn't enough. It quickly morphs into, who did this? And that question inevitably leads us to invisible actors. Today we might call it fate, the universe, energy, the system, or hidden powers. The labels change, but the function remains identical. You can see this clearly in the narratives that go viral on social media. As uncertainty increases, complex global events are stripped down into simple stories. If something spirals out of control, we feel like there must be a will behind it. This is precisely what Hume was pointing at. Humans hate living with randomness. We prefer saying, something did this, over simply saying, it happened. Why? Because it offers the mind a shred of comfort. And here is a crucial distinction. Hume isn't saying people do this out of stupidity. On the contrary, he argues it's a deeply human reflex. Uncertainty is exhausting. Living in a constant state of I don't know is unbearable. So the mind often pivots away from seeking the truth and toward a soothing explanation. Over time, these explanations become sacred. The more they are repeated, the more natural they begin to seem. I believe the biggest question Hume leaves us with today is this: do we believe in something because it is true, or do we cling to it because it shields us from uncertainty? Because if the latter is true, then this isn't just about religion. It's about how humans in every field and every age manufacture meaning in the face of the unknown. According to Hume, this process, born of fear and chaos, doesn't naturally lead to the idea of a single God. In the beginning, the human mind doesn't see the world as orderly or consistent enough for a single ruler. Our experiences are too scattered, too contradictory. Plenty in one land, famine in another. One person recovers while another dies suddenly. In such a chaotic world, building a concept of one consistent God is difficult. That's why Hume argues that the first form of belief for humanity was, inevitably, polytheism. According to Hume, polytheism is a remarkably logical starting point. It's simple. Humans invent different causes for different events. Attributing a storm to one power, a disease to another, and a bountiful harvest to yet another is the easiest way to make sense of a fragmented world. In this way, every uncertainty has an owner. These gods are often capricious, inconsistent, and even in conflict with one another. But this, too, aligns perfectly with human experience, because life itself is inconsistent. Hume points out a crucial detail here. The first gods were not moral beings. They didn't emerge as figures commanding people to be good or offering high ethical values. They were simply powers to be feared, appeased, and silenced with gifts or rituals. People didn't believe because they respected them. They believed because they were terrified of them. This reinforces the idea that the primal nature of religion is rooted in fear, not hope. Over time, things began to shift. As societies became settled and hierarchies grew stronger, the human mind started constructing more organized belief structures. This is where the idea of a single God gradually emerges. But Hume's point is clear. Monotheism is a natural continuation of polytheism. It's not a separate idea that fell from the sky. The concept of a simpler, centralized power is formed by merging those scattered, chaotic forces. But there's a strange irony here. Hume argues that as the idea of a single God takes hold, fear doesn't disappear, it just changes shape. Instead of fearing multiple gods, we begin to fear a single, all-encompassing will that controls everything. This makes faith more abstract and often more dominant, because now there is nowhere else to run. Hume now narrows his focus to a vital question. What exactly does this state of fear and uncertainty drive humans to produce? His answer is blunt. Superstitions, rituals, and behaviors that feel meaningful but have no real-world impact. The human mind loathes uncertainty, especially when it loses the sense of control. Illness, death, economic collapse, or unexplained personal tragedies. The mind cannot carry that void for long. This is where rituals step in. A ritual is comforting not because it provides a direct solution, but because it creates the sensation of, I am doing something. Hume makes a brilliant observation. Humans don't usually invent superstitions when they are happy. They invent them when they are afraid. Rituals are born of anxiety, not joy. Sacrificing to gods, repeating specific prayers, declaring certain days sacred, or labeling behaviors as bad luck. These are all desperate attempts to manage the unmanageable. Hume isn't mocking people for being irrational. On the contrary, he sees this as a deeply understandable part of human nature. When reason retreats in the face of uncertainty, imagination takes the lead. And once imagination is in charge, it becomes incredibly easy to manufacture invisible powers, secret intentions, and divine signs. Hume highlights another critical point. These superstitions eventually become institutionalized. What starts as an individual reaction to fear turns into a social system. Someone invents a ritual, another claims it works, and soon the behavior is sanctified and beyond question. Eventually, the ritual itself becomes the goal. We stop talking about why we do it and start focusing on the fact that we must do it. To Hume, this is where the real danger begins. When ritual replaces thought, humans stop trying to understand and focus only on repetition. As repetition increases, questioning decreases. This creates structures that are hollow on the inside, but appear invincible on the outside. If we look at today's world, the picture is strikingly familiar. Only the names have changed. We have algorithms instead of sacrifices, viral narratives instead of sacred texts, and leaked intel instead of prophecies. But the mechanism is identical. As uncertainty rises, people look for something, anything, to cling to. And the simpler, sharper, and more certain it looks, the more convincing it becomes. Hume seems to be telling us this. Humans are meaning-seeking creatures, but we are also easily persuaded. If the fear is great enough, the mind stops demanding evidence and starts demanding relief. According to Hume, at this stage, a new actor enters the scene: religious authority. What begins as individual fears eventually gets organized, shaped, and managed by a specific group of people. This is where the figure of the cleric or priest emerges. Hume explains this with a cold, clinical clarity. When people are afraid, they seek a guide. And whenever there is a void created by a search for guidance, someone will inevitably step in to fill it. Hume doesn't necessarily view all these figures as malicious. However, he states one thing quite clearly. The survival of these structures depends on keeping human fear alive. Because when fear diminishes, questioning increases. And when questioning increases, authority weakens. Therefore, it's no coincidence that over time, religions tend to become more complex, rituals multiply, and rules proliferate. Hume makes a fascinating distinction here. Philosophy calms the mind. Religion agitates it. Philosophy tries to understand, while religion demands obedience. Philosophy asks questions, while religion sanctifies answers. And this process of sanctification eventually leads people to doubt their own reason. One of the most profound points in the book is this: religions are shaped by human nature. Human nature is not shaped by religions. We imagine our gods to be just like us. Angry people create punishing gods. Fearful societies create vengeful gods. As uncertainty rises, gods become more interventionist. Hume's historical observation is vital. Monotheism was not the starting point. Polytheism was. Why? Because it's more compatible with human psychology. A different cause for every fear, a different culprit for every disaster. The god of the sea is angry. The god of harvest is offended. This comforts the mind because while control is fragmented, it isn't entirely lost. The transition to monotheism for Hume isn't necessarily an enlightened step forward. In fact, the presence of a single absolute power can make fear deeper and more persistent. There is no other door to knock on. There is only one will, and that will sees everything. This creates a psychological pressure cooker. While monotheism may appear more moral, it sustains a constant state of guilt under the gaze of a singular absolute authority. Hume's concern isn't to fight faith. It's to ask, does belief make a human being more free or more dependent? More serene or more fearful? More virtuous or simply more submissive? If a system silences your reason and manages you through fear, Hume argues it's no longer religion. It's a psychological control mechanism. This leads us to the most controversial question. Do we need religion to be moral? Hume's answer is a straightforward, uncompromising no. According to Hume, the source of morality is not religion. It is human nature itself. We distinguish between good and evil not because sacred texts tell us to, but because we can feel the harm or benefit we cause others. Empathy, conscience, and social harmony are the true foundations of ethics. Religion is often just a structure grafted onto these natural moral instincts. He makes a striking point. If morality is based solely on the fear of God, it isn't true virtue. It is merely punishment avoidance. To Hume, true virtue is being good when no one is watching. It is choosing the right path when no reward is promised. If a person is good only to avoid hell, that isn't morality. It's a business transaction. Furthermore, Hume notes that religious systems often blur the line between what is truly moral and what is not. Harmless behaviors are declared sins, while genuinely harmful actions might be ignored for religious reasons. This causes the moral compass to drift. People stop asking, "Who does this harm?" and start asking, "Who forbade this?" The distinction is clear. Morality brings people together. Superstition manages them through fear. Morality is built on trust. Superstition is built on anxiety. Morality is simple, natural, and found in everyday life. Superstition is complex, shrouded in symbols, and requires constant reinforcement. From here, Hume moves into the practical effects of religion. He observes that while faith can make some people more compassionate, it can make others harsher, more judgmental, and even more ruthless. The impact of religion on morality is inconsistent at best. In contrast, empathy and our shared sense of humanity are far more universal and stable. This leads to one of the most staggering sentences in the book. Hume suggests that throughout history, the greatest atrocities have not been born from the individual greed of bad people, but from beliefs held as sacred. A person might do limited evil for their own gain, but if they do it in the name of God, they know no limits. Hume's goal isn't to demolish religion. He simply wants to clarify that if we derive our morality solely from faith, we place it on incredibly fragile ground. Because if the belief shifts, the morality shifts with it. However, the feelings of mercy and justice that spring from human nature are far more resilient. Hume's thesis is now crystal clear. Religion is a product of human nature, not the other way around. And what makes us better beings is not fear, but understanding. So, if religion is a byproduct of fear, and if it isn't the true source of morality, then what should we hold on to? Hume's answer is calm yet firm, a measured reason and a philosophy rooted in everyday life. For Hume, philosophy isn't a system that judges us from above. It's a guide that meets us exactly where we are. He critiques those grand metaphysical claims and absolute truths because they do exactly what religion does. They detach us from our own lived experience. He offers something much more modest, the acceptance that we are limited beings. Our knowledge, our perception, and our control are all finite. Once we accept this, the allure of fake certainties vanishes. We don't have to know everything. Everything doesn't need a divine plan or a hidden purpose. Hume believes philosophy's job isn't to make us restless, but to strip away unnecessary fears. While religion often makes us live with the anxiety of, "What if I'm wrong?" philosophy simply says, "Doing your best is enough." Hume doesn't demand the total disappearance of religion. He acknowledges that some find balance through faith, as long as that faith doesn't silence reason, center itself on fear, or oppress others. The core message of the book is this: the most dangerous thing isn't belief, it's unquestioned belief. The most harmful thing isn't religion, it's religion fed by terror. Hume's most human side emerges here. He doesn't mock the desire to believe, he understands it deeply. But he adds a warning. When believing replaces thinking, we become strangers to ourselves. In the end, Hume leaves us with less dogma and more humility, less absolute truth and more human experience. He isn't trying to kill faith. He's trying to make visible the faith that is born of fear. Hume doesn't ask us to be heroes. He doesn't say, "Question everything and burn it all down." Instead, he asks us to accept our boundaries. You don't have to know everything, but you must realize why you believe what you believe. When that awareness kicks in, everything changes. Belief born of serenity is a different beast entirely. Morality built on empathy, rather than the fear of punishment, becomes something honest and real. Hume's answer to "Why do humans create religion?" isn't a one-liner. Its essence is this: humans don't just create gods, they create meaning. And that meaning can either heal us or imprison us. When you finish the book, you aren't left with a neat answer, but you are left with a compass, a question to carry with you. Am I believing out of fear or out of understanding? And that question applies to every corner of life. Hume doesn't tell us, don't believe. He tells us, notice why you do. In a world as uncertain as ours, ready-made answers are seductive. But as Hume reminds us, wherever we switch off our reason, our fears quietly take the wheel. If there was a moment in this video where you thought, I've never looked at it that way, then Hume has done his job. Because that is what philosophy does. It doesn't give you answers, it leaves you with better questions. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. If you enjoyed this journey into the mind, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It truly motivates me. I'll see you in the next video, where we'll poke our minds with another book from the heart of life. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.